Should the Bible be taught in public schools? Hi everyone, welcome to Ask and Response with R.A. Sweeney, where I try to respond to questions that you all send me about different things with the Bible and just Christian culture type things like that. So today I wanted to respond to a lot of conversation that's going on because here recently Texas passed that they, or at least working on passing, that they're going to be teaching the Bible in public schools. And there's a lot of people that are really for this, and there's a lot of people, even Christians, that are really, really against the idea of Bible teaching in public school. And I think, there's definitely not a right or wrong answer here. Like, I'm not going to point you to here in the Bible it says, because that's not there. It's not really a question that anybody in the Bible would have even been dreaming of. And so I think we just need to kind of look at applying some wisdom here. And so the first thing that comes to mind for me is I went to public school, and most of my teachers were atheists or nominally Christian at best. I think there were probably a few that were actually, trying to be followers of Jesus, but for the most part, I would think most of my teachers actually were pretty against God. Not just atheist, but kind of militant atheist. Most. And so if any of my teachers, my former teachers are watching, I'm not singling anybody out in particular. I'm sure some of you were following to different degrees, but I think a lot of them weren't. And so, I can think of a couple teachers that would be very, very proud to say that they were, too smart to believe in God, or, they were, too sophisticated or things like that. And I think about what would it have looked like if they were teaching the Bible. I know I wasn't taught the Bible in public school, but if I remember right, my older brother was in an English class. Like, he studied it for English literature, by someone that I don't think was really overly Christian. And just thinking about that, what would it look like for someone who's not Christian to teach the Bible in a public school, to me is terrifying. And that even comes back to, even in our churches, I see there's just kind of this familiarity that breeds contempt. I see, like right now, what's coming to mind is I remember years ago, there were two girls that were pretty young in the church. I would say probably late elementary, beginning of junior high, who got baptized. And they got baptized together. They were best friends. They got baptized together. And already I was thinking, are you getting baptized because you both had a profession at the same time, or because you're best friends and you want to do this together? I have a friend who he got baptized with, I think it was his girlfriend at the time, because it was something they wanted to do together. And I'm like, well, are you doing it because you have both had this profession, which my wife and I both came to faith within a few months of each other, and so it's definitely not impossible or without precedent, but things like that, just they make me wonder. But going back to those girls, I ran into them afterward. They were in a youth group that I was teaching, and I asked them, okay, so tell me, you've made this profession, what does that mean? Tell me what you are proclaiming. And they're like, well, we don't know. They had no clue, or at least couldn't articulate it. And I'm like, well, then maybe it wasn't the best idea for you to be baptized. You're making this profession, but you can't articulate what your profession is. And I don't know. I'm not saying that they were wrong. I'm not saying they didn't have a profession, but if you can't articulate what it is that you are baptizing into, what you are professing, how real can it be? And I feel like in our churches, we have this drive for inclusion means that you're getting baptized, that you're saying the right things, that you're professing the right things. And it's just kind of this bias to do these things. If you're a kid there, you're seeing other people get baptized, they're being celebrated, and all these things are celebrated in the church context. And so you kind of learn the motions without necessarily having the experience of a conversion moment. And that's my worry with teaching the Bible in public school is we're teaching you that you're supposed to believe all these things, but also we're going to give you someone who potentially doesn't agree with any of this and thinks it's all stupid. So they're going to be treating it with a lot of contempt. You've got people who probably haven't studied extensively, who maybe are just well-intentioned but doing a bad job teaching it. Like, why would we want public school teachers to be the ones that are providing a Bible education? Like, that's a parent's job. First and foremost, parents should be teaching the Bible. Then it's the church's job. And why would we want public, like, great, we're exposing kids to it, but if we're doing a really, really bad job of it, which my assumption is public schools are going to do a really bad job of it, that makes me very, very nervous. That is my biggest concern, is who's going to be teaching this and what's the quality of the instruction going to look like. But then also that kind of bias of like, we're kind of making it seem like you should believe these things. To me, if we're going to be teaching it in a secular space, I would want it to be a bit more open, because I don't want people to just make a profession because they feel like they're supposed to. Because if I've made a profession that isn't based on a real encounter with Jesus, I'm probably not going to feel like I need to be searching. I'm probably going to because we teach, like, once you are saved, you should be comfortable in your salvation. You should rest in your salvation, trust in your salvation, not doubt your salvation, which is true if you've been saved. But if I've just made a profession because I was a kid and I felt like I was supposed to, and then I'm told never question that, never doubt it, like just trust it and rest in it, I'm never going to have that experience. And so if I'm putting him in a situation where there is a bias toward, you are supposed to make this profession, you're supposed to be baptized, you're supposed to, there's a concern there of like, what are we trying to get kids to do? And I'm a big proponent of knowing world religion. A lot of people are against that in Christian contexts of like, well, we shouldn't be teaching like Islam or even non-Christian Judaic thought, Buddhism and Hinduism and all those things. Like, we shouldn't be teaching those because they're all leading astray. But if we believe the Bible is the truth and all of those others are false, which I do, like, I don't think that Islam is the true way to the true God who created everything. And I think it's got some problems and fallacies. Same with any other world religion. Like, Christianity for me is the only thing that makes any sense, and I fully believe that it is the truth and the only truth. Why would I shy away from anything else if I believe this is true and I believe other things are wrong? If it's true, it's going to be supportable and it's going to be visible that it's true. And so good teaching should show all those things. And for me, when we look at world religion, really we've got roads to different places is what it amounts to. And I think for me, that's what is so compelling about Christianity, is clearly I can see where Christianity leads. And I'm compelled by that. I like that. That's where I want to be. And I can see where like Buddhism is a very nihilistic faith. Like it's stripping yourself of humanity so that you can reach nirvana, which is the state of, it's essentially an emptiness. The word means to be blown out, like the flames of humanity have been burnt out. Your passions, your emotions, everything about being a human is blown out. Why would I want to go that direction? Like, that to me it's not for me. And I'm not trying to condescend people who have chosen that path. That's very much up to you if you want to go that way. And that's kind of my point, is like, if we teach this is the faith that leads in this direction, and this is the faith that leads in this direction, and this faith leads in this direction, it allows people to make decisions with eyes wide open. If I'm saying I don't trust people to choose Christianity, and so I need to keep them in the dark so that they have to. One, I don't have any faith in that. And two, they're not choosing it. They just don't have options. I want people to be able to look around and say like, whoa, look how beautiful Jesus is compared to what everything else is. And so part of me says, like, if we're going to teach Christianity in schools, teach the Bible in schools, like, why aren't we teaching world religion? Maybe not everyone, because how could you? There's infinite. Even just like the Hindu faith alone is, they say it's like the faith of a million gods, because there's not like a set exactly how things are like you have in Christianity, which is, even Christianity is very broad in its beliefs, but you couldn't teach everything, but you could paint a big picture with a lot of different options and a lot of different perspectives, and then let kids decide, like, hey, this Jesus guy seems pretty awesome, I want to learn more, rather than, hey, you're only going to learn about Jesus and everybody else you don't even get to learn about. I'm like, I was a kid, and I know if you tell me you should never look at these, I'm gonna be like, well, I kind of want to look at those now. Versus saying, like, here's what's out there, honest look at everything, and then you guys decide what is going to lead to the life that you want. I feel like that's a much better option. And I feel like a lot of people aren't going to agree with me on that one, because a lot of people want to have that closer control. But to me, I feel like a world religion education is a way better option, because it's not trying to pigeonhole people. It allows people to make educated decisions. And even if everybody does choose Christianity, which I hope they would, and I think if we have clear pictures of who Jesus is, he is so compelling, it's really hard to not want to be a part of what he's doing. But when I understand other people's cultures, it helps me to love other people better. So if I really, as a Christian, if I really want people to be good Christians, rather than just teaching the Bible, they should be learning the Quran, so I can understand people who follow Islam better and love them better. Not that I'm not advocating that people should believe the Quran, but if you know what other people believe, when you can say, okay, we do have some points of agreement, let's start there. And let's be friends in these points of agreement, and then we can have discussions based on that unity where we do agree, rather than just saying, you're wrong, I'm right. There's no commonality. There's no ability to love people if we don't know their values, their worldview, any of those things. So to me, that world religion sort of education allows me to be able to say, hey, I know a little bit about your culture, and I actually have questions. I'd love to know more about your culture and your beliefs. And okay, well, they do differ from mine, and they're different. I'm not saying they're all the same, but let's talk about the differences. Maybe it builds bridges when we have understanding, I guess. It builds love when we have understanding. When I can see someone else's worldview, I'm more able to love them. I'm more able to connect with them. And if I can connect with them, that's going to make better evangelism as well. So to me, I don't like the idea of public school teachers as Bible teachers. I don't trust that they're going to do a good job with it. I think world religion teaching would make it more likely that people who are choosing to follow Christian values will be choosing it for the right reasons. And I feel like teaching people a much bigger picture of world religion is going to help make better Christians, honestly, rather than just kept in the dark in a box, allowing them to experience the world and say, hey, now go out and love these people. And that's what drives missionaries too. Like when I see, like, oh man, I see how you guys have gone astray here, and I understand. And like, for me, like I mentioned Buddhism, like I have a lot of sympathy for people who are in Buddhist traditions, because I'm like, I can only imagine how depressing it must be to constantly be trying to destroy all of the humanity in yourself so that you can finally reach peace when you don't have passion. When Christianity says, like, your passions are part of what it means to be human, and Jesus had passion, and you get to live in those things and experience it and be more human when you use your passions appropriately rather than just getting rid of them completely. So I've got a lot of compassion for that. And I can come to someone who has those beliefs with just a yearning in my heart to say, like, I hurt for you. And so to me, all of those things come together for a better world when we have all of that together. So like I said, I think a lot of people would probably disagree with a lot of this, and that's okay too, but those are at least my thoughts on it and my responses to questions on what Texas is doing, what other states might be doing with mandatory Bible education. So that's my response to those questions. I hope it was a blessing for all of you guys. If you enjoy these videos, please subscribe so that you can see our weekly ask and response videos. Like them so that other people can find these videos and hopefully be brought into the body of the Messiah, or to grow deeper in the body of the Messiah as we explore some of these hopefully relevant questions and interesting questions. if you know people that could benefit from these, share them as well, so it helps grow in that way as well. But for now, I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.